Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the strongest people in the room aren't the loudest, the wealthiest, or even the most educated, but the ones who master the quiet art of emotional intelligence? It's not the grand gestures that define them, but the subtle behaviors most people overlook. The way they listen, the way they hold back when anger rises, the way they make others feel seen without saying a single word. Today, I'm going to show you 7 of those subtle behaviors that reveal a power far greater than any title or status, because once you understand them, you'll never see strength the same way again. When we talk about emotional intelligence, most people imagine big, dramatic acts of empathy or leadership. They think of someone who always knows the right thing to say, who effortlessly calms a heated room, who delivers flawless words of comfort or wisdom. But the truth is, real emotional intelligence doesn't live in grand gestures. It lives in the small, subtle behaviors that often go unnoticed, the quiet things you do when nobody is keeping score. It's in how you carry yourself when the world is watching, and more importantly, how you carry yourself when it isn't. One of the most powerful indicators of high emotional intelligence is the ability to listen, really listen. Not the kind of listening where you're already preparing your response while the other person is still speaking. True listening is when you give someone your full attention, not just with your ears, but with your entire presence. When people feel heard by you, they feel valued, and that creates trust. This isn't about nodding your head or parroting their words back to them. It's about putting aside your own ego, suspending judgment, and allowing someone to feel safe enough to share who they are. That safety is a gift you give quietly, without expecting anything in return. Another subtle behavior is self-regulation, the ability to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. Picture a situation where you feel anger bubbling up, when your instinct is to lash out, defend, or fight back. High emotional intelligence is not about pretending you don't feel that anger. It's about acknowledging it, breathing through it, and then choosing how to respond with clarity and intention. People who have this skill don't let emotions hijack their behavior. They can sit in discomfort without being ruled by it, and because of that, others see them as steady, grounded, unshakable. This doesn't mean you never feel heated or upset. It means you know how to hold the line, how to ride the wave of emotion without being swept away. Equally important is how you notice the energy of a room. You walk in and pick up on the subtle cues, the tension in someone's shoulders, the way voices soften when the mood shifts, the silence that lingers just a little too long. This isn't about reading minds, it's about being attuned to human signals. Those with high emotional intelligence don't bulldoze their way through interactions. They adjust, they pivot, they honor the emotional climate around them, and because they do, they can connect on a level that others often miss. That sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness, sharpened into a tool. Humility is another quiet sign. It shows when you can admit you don't know everything, when you seek input instead of needing to be the loudest voice in the room. People with high emotional intelligence don't have to dominate a conversation to prove their worth. They know their value doesn't shrink just because someone else shines. This humility is subtle. It shows up when you celebrate others' successes without jealousy, when you allow someone else to take the spotlight, when you know your strength is not diminished by lifting others up. There's also the way you handle feedback. Most people see criticism as an attack, and their walls go up. But those with emotional intelligence view feedback as data, as information that can help them grow. They listen without defensiveness. They ask clarifying questions. They extract the lesson without losing themselves in shame or anger. That doesn't mean every piece of feedback is accurate or fair, but it does mean you choose not to let your pride shut down your ability to learn. This ability to separate your worth from your mistakes is subtle, but it's powerful. Kindness, too, is one of those quiet behaviors that reveals more than people realize. Not the performative kind, but the genuine moments when you extend grace without anyone watching. It could be the patience you show to a stranger, the encouragement you give to a colleague, the compassion you offer to someone who can give you nothing in return. Emotional intelligence is measured in these small acts of humanity, your ability to make others feel seen, even in fleeting interactions, because in those moments, you demonstrate that you're not just aware of your own emotions, but of the ripple effect your actions have on others. And then there's resilience, the ability to endure challenges without becoming hardened or bitter. Life will test you, people will disappoint you, circumstances will knock you down. What matters is how you rise, how you recover, and how you refuse to let hardship strip you of your empathy. Emotional intelligence is not about living in denial of pain. It's about carrying pain without projecting it onto others. It's the strength to remain kind even when life has been unkind to you, the discipline to keep moving forward without losing your humanity. So much of this doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't make headlines, it won't get you applause, but it will earn you trust, loyalty, and respect in ways you may never even see. People will walk away from conversations with you feeling lighter, stronger, understood. They won't always know why, but it will be because of the way you showed up. Attentive, steady, humble, open, kind, resilient. And that's the truth about emotional intelligence. It's not about perfection. It's about choice. Every day, in 1,000 small ways, you have the chance to choose presence over distraction, calm over chaos, humility over ego, kindness over indifference. Those choices shape not just how others see you, but how you see yours. Elf, they build a quiet strength, one that doesn't need to shout or prove. It simply exists, steady and undeniable, guiding how you move through the world. The subtle behaviors matter. They are the quiet markers of a person who has mastered not just the art of understanding others, but the art of understanding themselves. And that mastery is what allows you to lead, not always with titles or positions, but with influence that is felt, not forced. It's easy to underestimate just how much those choices echo through every aspect of your life. Think about the people you've encountered who left a lasting impression on you. Chances are it wasn't because they gave a perfect speech or dazzled you with credentials. It was probably something far quieter, maybe the way they stayed calm when everything around them was spiraling, or the way they gave you their full attention when you were speaking, making you feel like you were the only person in the room. Those moments live with you because they reveal a depth of character that can't be faked. And that's what high emotional intelligence is, character revealed through action, not words. Consider patience. Most people think of patience as a passive act, something that happens when you sit back and wait. But true patience is active. It's a choice you make in the middle of frustration, when it would be easier to snap, criticize, or rush. Emotional intelligence shows up in how you handle waiting, how you treat people when they're struggling to keep up, how you manage yourself when life moves slower than your ambition. Patience is not weakness, it's discipline. It's saying, I won't let the discomfort of this moment control me. That's strength, and it's one of the quietest yet most powerful markers of someone who has command over themselves. Then there's curiosity, another behavior that doesn't always get the recognition it deserves. People with high emotional intelligence don't assume they have all the answers. They ask questions, not to expose or embarrass, but to understand. They enter conversations not with an agenda to win, but with a mindset to learn. This curiosity makes them adaptable because when you're open to learning, you can pivot, you can grow, you can handle perspectives different from your own without feeling threatened. Curiosity keeps you humble, keeps you flexible, keeps you connected. It's not about prying into people's lives, it's about showing genuine interest in their experience and what it can teach you. Emotional intelligence also lives in the discipline of silence. In a world that rewards constant noise, posting, speaking, asserting, silence can be radical. People who know themselves don't feel pressured to fill every gap with words. They understand that silence can be powerful, that sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is hold space. Silence gives others room to speak, and it gives you room to think. It prevents you from saying things you'll regret in heated moments, and it allows you to hear what isn't being said. Choosing silence when your ego wants to erupt is one of the sharpest tools in emotional mastery. Boundaries are another subtle behavior that signal emotional intelligence. Setting them doesn't always look dramatic. It can be as simple as saying no with grace, stepping back from toxic dynamics, or refusing to engage in gossip. People with high emotional intelligence understand that boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are lines meant to protect your peace, your values, and your energy. And because of that, others come to respect them even if they don't always like them. Boundaries show self-respect, and they teach others how to treat you without you having to demand it. Gratitude, too, reveals itself in quiet but unmistakable ways. It's in how you thank the people others overlook. It's in how you recognize the effort behind the scenes, not just the spotlight moments. Gratitude is not simply saying thank you, it's carrying an awareness of how interconnected you are with others. People with high emotional intelligence don't take kindness, loyalty, or effort for granted. They acknowledge it, and in doing so, they inspire more of it. Gratitude shifts not just how you interact with people, but how you see the world. It keeps you grounded, focused on abundance instead of lack, on what's working instead of only what's broken. Let's also talk about adaptability. Life rarely unfolds the way you plan, and emotional intelligence is reflected in how you respond to the unexpected. Do you resist change, clinging to what's familiar? Or do you pivot, adjusting with resilience and creativity? Adaptability doesn't mean you never feel fear or resistance. It means you don't let those emotions paralyze you. You acknowledge them, then move anyway. People with high emotional intelligence can step into the unknown without needing every detail in place because they trust their ability to figure it out along the way. This adaptability is what makes them leaders in times of uncertainty, the people others look to when the ground is shifting beneath everyone's feet. Another behavior that often goes unnoticed is the ability to forgive, not necessarily to excuse, but to release. Carrying resentment poisons you more than the person you're angry with. Emotional intelligence is knowing when holding on to anger costs more than letting it go. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay, it's about refusing to let it control you any longer. This release frees up your energy, allowing you to move forward instead of being chained to the past. People who can forgive quietly, without spectacle, demonstrate a depth of strength that others can feel. Confidence also plays a role, but not the loud, performative kind. True confidence is calm. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt in the steadiness of your presence, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak without rushing or needing validation. This kind of confidence is rooted in self-awareness. You know your strengths, but you're equally aware of your flaws, and neither defines your worth. Emotional intelligence gives you this balance, the ability to stand tall without needing to stand above anyone else. And there's empathy, the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, but again, it often shows up in subtle ways. It's in the quick check-in you make when you notice someone is off. It's in the choice to withhold judgment, to see beyond behavior and into the pain that might be driving it. It's in the small gestures, offering help without being asked, giving space when someone needs it, listening without trying to fix. Empathy doesn't always mean dramatic acts of kindness. Often, it's the everyday awareness that other people are carrying battles you can't see, and adjusting your behavior with that truth in mind. Even humor, used wisely, can be a sign of high emotional intelligence. Not the kind that cuts or belittles, but the kind that lightens heavy moments, diffuses tension, and brings people together. Humor requires awareness. It's knowing when levity is appropriate and when it isn't. People with emotional intelligence use humor to connect, not to dominate. They laugh at themselves, showing humility, and invite others to do the same. It's a subtle but powerful way of breaking down barriers and reminding people that connection doesn't always have to be heavy. Self-reflection is another critical behavior. Most people move through life without pausing to ask themselves why they react the way they do. But emotional intelligence thrives in reflection. It's in the willingness to examine your own patterns, to notice when your ego is running the show, to ask hard questions about your motives and choices. This kind of introspection isn't easy, and it's not always comfortable, but it's what allows you to grow instead of staying stuck. People who take time to reflect don't just live, they evolve. And finally, presence. In a distracted world, presence is rare and therefore it's powerful. When you put your phone down, when you stop rushing, when you give someone your full attention, you're telling them, you matter. This moment matters. Presence is a discipline, because everything in our environment pulls us away from it. But when you choose presence, you create impact far beyond the words you speak. People remember how you made them feel, and presence makes them feel valued, respected, important. These behaviors may seem small, almost invisible at times, but that's the point. Emotional intelligence isn't about what you perform for others, it's about who you are when nobody is applauding. It's the steady, quiet discipline of choosing to rise above your impulses, to connect with others on a human level, to live with awareness and intention. And it's in those moments, those subtle but powerful choices, that true strength reveals itself. And what's remarkable is that the smallest shifts in these behaviors can alter the entire course of your relationships, your career, even your sense of peace with yourself. When you sharpen your emotional intelligence, you're not just improving how you deal with people, you're rewriting the quality of your life. Think about it. Opportunities often don't come to the loudest voice in the room. They come to the person others trust, the one who can be relied upon to remain steady when pressure mounts. Trust is born from consistency, and consistency is born from these subtle habits you practice day in and day out. Take responsibility, for example. People with high emotional intelligence don't waste time blaming, deflecting, or making excuses when things go wrong. They own their part, even when it's uncomfortable. That honesty creates credibility because others know you'll tell the truth instead of hiding behind excuses. Responsibility is subtle. You don't announce it, you show it in the way you handle mistakes, in the way you accept consequences with humility and move forward with intention. This doesn't just strengthen relationships, it strengthens you. Every time you take ownership, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of growth and change. Another quiet yet transformative behavior is restraint. In a heated conversation, most people let their emotions hijack the moment. They speak without thinking, sometimes causing damage that takes years to repair. But restraint, the ability to pause, to breathe, to let the storm pass before you act, is one of the clearest signs of maturity. It's not suppression, it's wisdom. Restraint says, I value the bigger picture more than the temporary release of saying what's on my mind. That kind of discipline turns volatile moments into opportunities for connection instead of division. There's also compassion toward yourself, something that often goes overlooked. Many people believe emotional intelligence is only about how you treat others, but it begins with how you treat you. People with high emotional intelligence know how to extend grace to themselves. They understand that growth isn't linear, that mistakes don't erase worth, and that self-punishment rarely leads to lasting change. They practice self-compassion not as an excuse, but as fuel for resilience. Because when you can forgive yourself, you learn how to forgive others. When you can encourage yourself, you learn how to uplift others. Perspective-taking is another marker. When conflict arises, most people dig into their own position, defending it at all costs. But those with emotional intelligence know how to step outside themselves and look at the situation from multiple angles. They don't have to agree with every perspective, but they respect that those perspectives exist. They can ask, what might this look like from where they stand? That willingness to broaden the lens transforms conflict into dialogue and dialogue into solutions. Perspective doesn't erase your truth, but it opens you to a bigger one. Discretion, too, is a subtle but powerful sign. Not everything needs to be said. Not every secret entrusted to you needs to be shared. People with high emotional intelligence know the weight of words, and they treat what others give them with respect. This discretion builds trust that's hard to break, because people know you are a safe space, someone who won't use their vulnerability as currency. Quiet discretion can be more powerful than the loudest declarations of loyalty. Then there's consistency of character. Many can show kindness when things are going well. Many can stay calm when life is smooth. But true emotional intelligence reveals itself in consistency, being the same person regardless of the circumstances. People know had to expect from you, whether the environment is stressful or calm. Consistency builds a reputation that speaks louder than any resume. It's the quiet reliability that makes people say, I know they'll show up. I know they'll follow through. And that reliability earns respect that can't be bought. Another subtle yet profound behavior is emotional transparency. This doesn't mean spilling every detail of your inner world. It means being willing to admit when you're not okay, to share vulnerability without fear of appearing weak. Emotional intelligence understands that authenticity is strength, not liability. When you can say, I'm struggling, you create space for others to be honest too. Transparency builds connection, and connection builds resilience. It's a reminder that none of us are meant to navigate life pretending to be invincible. Patience with progress is equally critical. In a culture addicted to instant results, emotional intelligence shows up in your ability to stick with the process, even when results are slow. Whether it's learning a new skill, repairing a relationship, or working on yourself, patience allows you to keep moving without constant validation. You trust the work even when you can't yet see the reward. That patience builds endurance, and endurance often outlasts talent, opportunity, or luck. Another quiet but striking behavior is the ability to detach from drama. Life will always present you with chaos, gossip, negativity, unnecessary conflict. Emotional intelligence is not about never encountering these things, it's about refusing to get entangled in them. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means choosing peace over the lure of distraction. When you refuse to add fuel to drama, you conserve energy for what truly matters. People may not always understand your restraint in these moments, but over time, they respect it. There's also the courage to apologize, not the half apologies laced with excuses, but genuine ones. Emotional intelligence allows you to recognize when you've caused harm and take responsibility for it. A sincere apology is one of the clearest demonstrations of strength because it shows you value the relationship more than your pride. The words, "I was wrong," carry weight not because they're dramatic, but because they're rare. And in their rarity, they reveal a person who leads with integrity. Optimism, when grounded in reality, is another quiet marker. It's not blind positivity or ignoring challenges. It's the choice to focus on possibilities instead of obstacles, to believe in solutions instead of surrendering to despair. Emotional intelligence doesn't deny hardship, but it refuses to let hardship define the future. This kind of optimism isn't loud, it's steady. It's the person who, in the middle of chaos, says, "We'll figure this out." That quiet belief can shift the energy of an entire group. Flexibility and identity is another subtle strength. People with emotional intelligence aren't rigidly attached to being right, being seen a certain way, or holding on to outdated versions of themselves. They are willing to evolve. They don't let pride keep them locked into roles that no longer fit. This willingness to adapt identity is what allows them to grow without fear. They can say, "That's who I was then, but it's not who I am now," and mean it without shame. That evolution is a marker of true emotional maturity. There's also presence in failure. When setbacks happen, most people scramble to hide, to distract, to deflect. But people with emotional intelligence stay present. They acknowledge the disappointment without letting it destroy their spirit. They examine what went wrong, not as punishment, but as preparation for what comes next. Presence in failure creates resilience because it transforms pain into perspective and mistakes into momentum. And finally, grace. Grace is the unspoken power that runs through every act of emotional intelligence. Grace when someone lets you down. Grace when circumstances don't align. Grace when you're tempted to be harsh but choose to be kind instead. Grace is subtle, but it leaves a deep mark. It doesn't demand attention, but it transforms every interaction. Grace is not weakness, it's choosing dignity over impulse, humanity over judgment. It's a quiet strength that others can feel long after the moment has passed. Grace has a way of shifting not only how people experience you, but how they experience themselves in your presence. It allows others to let their guard down, to breathe, to feel like they don't have to perform to earn your respect. When you offer grace, you become the kind of person people remember long after the words are forgotten. They don't necessarily recall what you said, but they remember how you made them feel, respected, valued, and seen without conditions. That kind of impact doesn't fade. It builds trust that no title or status could ever buy. Another subtle marker of emotional intelligence is the way you manage expectations, not only for others, but for yourself. Many people set the bar impossibly high and then crumble when reality doesn't meet their vision. Emotional intelligence gives you the wisdom to balance ambition with acceptance. You still aim high, but you also recognize that life is messy, unpredictable, and rarely goes exactly as planned. When you manage expectations with honesty, you save yourself from cycles of disappointment and resentment. You also protect your relationships because people always know where they stand with you. That quiet balance is one of the clearest indicators of maturity. A related behavior is the ability to celebrate progress, however small. Emotional intelligence isn't about waiting for the grand finale before you acknowledge growth. It's about recognizing the incremental wins, the times you bit your tongue when you could have lashed out, the days you showed up even when you didn't feel like it, the effort you gave when nobody was watching. People with high emotional intelligence understand that progress is not always visible to the outside world, but they celebrate it anyway. This practice fuels momentum because when you honor the small steps, you find the strength to take the bigger ones. There's also the discipline of choosing presence over distraction. In a world constantly pulling your attention in 100 directions, being fully engaged in one conversation, one task, one moment is almost revolutionary. Emotional intelligence allows you to quiet the noise and invest in what's directly in front of you. When you do this, people feel it. They sense that you're not just half listening or half working, you're fully there. That depth of focus creates deeper relationships, higher quality work, and a level of trust that distracted people can't build. Another quiet but powerful behavior is the way you respond to envy. It's human nature to compare, to glance at what others have, and wonder why it isn't yours. But emotional intelligence allows you to turn envy into admiration, and admiration into inspiration. Instead of letting someone else's success trigger bitterness, you use it as proof of what's possible. You say, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. This subtle shift removes competition and creates motivation. You don't waste time tearing others down. You rise with them, knowing there's room for everyone to succeed. Let's not overlook kindness in moments of invisibility. It's easy to show kindness when everyone is watching, when it earns you praise or recognition. But real emotional intelligence reveals itself in how you treat people who can do nothing for you, or when no one else will ever know. Do you still choose kindness in those hidden moments? That's where your character shines brightest. It's in those acts, invisible to most, that you cultivate a reputation stronger than any performance. Another subtle behavior is adaptability in communication. Emotionally intelligent people don't speak to everyone the same way, not because they're inauthentic, but because they understand that connection requires flexibility. You wouldn't speak to a child the same way you'd speak to a colleague, nor would you approach a grieving friend the same way you'd approach someone celebrating success. High emotional intelligence allows you to read the room, to match your tone, your pace, your energy to what the moment requires. This ability to adjust doesn't dilute your authenticity, it amplifies your ability to connect. Emotional endurance is another quiet strength. It's easy to be composed for a day, to be patient in one conversation, to be kind in a single moment. But emotional intelligence reveals itself in your ability to sustain those behaviors consistently over time. Endurance is about continuing to show up with integrity long after the initial motivation has faded. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. People notice when your character holds steady day after day, year after year. That reliability builds a foundation of respect that outlasts circumstances. Another overlooked marker is the ability to recognize and honor boundaries in others. It's one thing to set your own boundaries, but it takes emotional intelligence to respect when someone else sets theirs. People with this skill don't push past limits out of selfishness or insecurity. They understand that honoring someone else's no is an act of respect, not rejection. This awareness strengthens trust because people feel safe knowing you won't take advantage of them or cross lines for your own gain. Emotional intelligence also shows up in how you respond to uncertainty. Most people panic when they don't know what's coming next, but emotionally intelligent people learn to tolerate the unknown without letting fear dictate their actions. They don't collapse under the weight of unanswered questions. Instead, they focus on what they can control and remain open to what they can't. That steadiness creates an anchor for others who feel lost in uncertainty. Your ability to remain grounded when the path ahead is unclear can inspire confidence in those around you. Another quiet but impactful behavior is restraint in judgment. It's easy to categorize people based on one interaction, to write them off because of a single mistake. But emotional intelligence gives you the ability to hold back, to acknowledge that you don't know someone's entire story. You allow space for growth, for redemption, for change. That doesn't mean ignoring patterns of harm, but it does mean resisting the impulse to define someone permanently by one chapter of their life. This restraint opens the door for compassion and deeper understanding. Generosity of spirit is another marker. It's not always about money or material resources. It's about sharing time, encouragement, wisdom, or even patience. People with emotional intelligence give without calculating what they'll get back. They understand that generosity has ripple effects, often reaching further than they'll ever see. This quiet willingness to give creates an atmosphere of abundance instead of scarcity, and it inspires others to do the same. Another subtle behavior lies in the way you handle transitions. Whether it's leaving a job, ending a relationship, or moving into a new chapter of life, transitions test emotional intelligence. People who lack it burn bridges, leave chaos behind, or cling desperately to the past. Those with high emotional intelligence exit with dignity, express gratitude for what was, and step into what's next with openness. How you handle endings says as much about you as how you handle beginnings. And then there's the ability to find calm in solitude. Many people avoid being alone because they're uncomfortable with their own thoughts. But emotional intelligence allows you to cultivate peace within yourself. You don't need constant noise or distraction to feel okay. You can sit in silence and still feel whole. That ability to be at home with yourself strengthens every relationship because it means you don't rely on others to fill the gaps in your own self-awareness. Even subtle acknowledgement plays a role. A small, "I see you," "I appreciate you," or even a nod of recognition can mean more than grand gestures. People with emotional intelligence don't underestimate the power of acknowledgement. They understand that most people just want to feel seen, and offering that validation, even in the smallest ways, can change the energy of someone's day. It costs nothing but attention, yet its impact is immeasurable. And perhaps one of the most understated behaviors of all is consistency in values. Emotional intelligence means you don't bend your integrity to fit the moment or the crowd. Your principles remain steady regardless of who is watching or what's at stake. You don't trade authenticity for approval. This kind of consistency is rare, and because of that, it carries immense weight. People know where you stand, and that clarity gives them confidence in you. All these behaviors, responsive, ability, restraint, patience, adaptability, generosity, presence, seem subtle, almost invisible in the moment. But over time, they build a force of character that shapes every interaction, every opportunity, every relationship. Emotional intelligence isn't about one grand display of wisdom or empathy. It's about the accumulation of choices, the daily practice of awareness, the discipline of showing up as your best self in the moments where nobody expects it. And it's in those moments, often unseen and uncelebrated, that true power is found.